That alone, Atmopadesh Satakam, reading of verse number 2. This is the unalterable constant behind the many variables. The unalterable constant behind the many variables. The verse is as follows. The inner organ, the senses, the body, the many worlds known by direct perception. Everything, when contemplated, is the glorious embodiment of the sun that shines in the sky beyond. This should be known through relentless search. And the commentary is as follows. Take your mind back a few hours to when you were in deep sleep. At that time, there was no consciousness. This can be analogically related to the world being completely merged in darkness. As dawn comes, things slowly begin to appear. Similarly, the deep unconscious in you slowly moves, and a vague awareness of consciousness comes. When that awareness becomes assertive, questions come to your mind. Is it morning? What time is it now? What am I going to do today? There is always some question coming up in your mind. This interrogative aspect of consciousness is called manas. Manas is the questioning aspect of consciousness. According to Vedantins, there are 4 categories of wakeful consciousness. The first is this questioning aspect, which is an attempt to assign meaning to whatever confronts you. Meaning is given to sense impressions or stray ideas by relating them to something already known. A new impression or idea is oriented in relation to previously experienced situations. When it is thus given a formal fixation, it finds a place in your scheme of understanding. In order to do this, you recall the memories which seem to be associated with what is being presented to your senses or mind. This faculty employed in the recall of memory is called chittam. It is the second category of consciousness. So we have manas, the questioning aspect, and the question brings the recall of memories which seem to be associated with what is presented to your senses of mind, and this aspect is called the recall of memory is called chittam. It is the second category of consciousness. After the relevant memory associations are revived, they are then used to decide the nature of the current impression or idea. The third category of consciousness is a faculty used to predicate the subject appropriately. It is called buddhi. So buddhi is the judging faculty, which is used to predicate the subject appropriately. You are in a state of suspense until you make a judgment on the value of a new stimulus. Once its nature is decided, you feel either satisfied or disturbed by it. This feeling affects your personal identity in a variety of ways. The fourth category of consciousness is the affectivity of the ego, called ahankara. Aham means I. You relate your personal experience to a central consciousness in you called I, which is affected in terms of pain, pleasure, or indifference. With this, one unit of impression has been almost instantaneously processed regarding its significance to you. Taken all together, these 4 aspects, manas, chitta, buddhi, ahankara, are called karanam, the dynamism of the psyche. After going through the process of questioning, recollecting, reasoning, and being affected, you pass on to the next stage, reacting to the situation. For this, you need to use For this, you need the use of your organs of perception and action. The senses, body, and mind all come together in a confection which becomes a holistic action, monitored by the major urge, drive, or interest that dominates that particular moment of your life. Each action in action complex contains a whole universe of interest. After one interest is fulfilled or thwarted, your mind moves on to another. Thus you go from one world of interest to another in a continuous sequence. These worlds spring up from the awakening of the latent urges lying buried in the unconscious. The external world is revealed to your eyes by the sun or some other physical source of light. All the visual images you see are only transformations of light. Similarly, there has to be a light from within for you to actually become aware of these visual images and other impressions. Just as visible things are transformations of light, what you experience as other persons, things, and interests are all transformations of your consciousness. You can profitably use this verse to detect your latent urges, hidden propensities, and even your basic drive. Your senses are bombarded with countless millions of stimuli, out of which only a very small percentage are consciously recognized and grouped together into meaningful patterns. Our minds cannot attend to many ensembles at a time. Usually, only one is promoted to interact with an item of interest. In each encounter, you need to learn to detach your mind from its fixation with the heart of the situation, so you can make a mental note of the dominating interest that motivates either an action or a reaction. It is both intriguing and educational to discover the hidden motivations and strategies of your mind. This will loosen the compulsive hold that unconscious predilections have on your conscious ability to choose. The chain of associated ideas which your recall of memory evokes can even bring to light many childhood shocks that have become cankerous. When you come across the same attraction or interest recurring again and again with assertive and irrepressible dynamics, you can recognize it as your major drive. Your basic drive expresses the principal characteristic of your matrix of vasanas or incipient memories. Vasanas are the essences of consolidated memories called samskaras. A samskara is a processed or cultured impression that remains with you for the rest of your life. When you are born, you do not come to this world as a clean slate, a tabula rasa, as John Locke presumed. According to geneticists, we carry many hereditary factors in our chromosomes which form the blueprints of our lives. In Sanskrit, these are called vasanas. The Indian concept of vasana is a little more complex than the geneticists' version. Vasana roughly corresponds to what psychologists called instinct. The rishis believe that each of us inherits both a body from our parents and a preconditioned individuated self from a previous incarnation. Thus, there are vasanas that correspond to certain factors found in one's parents, such as propensities to mental diseases or physical ailments, and those that correspond to what is brought over from a previous life as refined causal factors processed out of the impressions or samskaras acquired in that life. Both the genetic factor and the causal consciousness constitute the foundation of the present personality. Genetically, one's heredity is billions of years old. Psychically, heredity is ageless because ultimately it is an integral part of universal consciousness, Sambit, represented in this verse by the symbol of the sun shining in the sky beyond. So genetically, our heredity is billions of years old through evolution, as they say, but psychically, our heredity is ageless because it is an integral part of universal consciousness, which is called Sambit, the Sambit Sagara, the ocean of consciousness. And that ocean of consciousness is symbolically represented in this verse as the sun shining in the sky beyond. In the present verse, Narayana Guru is effecting a transformation of the individual's personal experience into a cosmic phenomena. The author's intention becomes evident when this verse is read in the light of the opening verse of the first vision of his Darshanamala. In the beginning there was non-existence indeed. Asidagre asadavedam bhuvanam swapnavat punaha sasarja sarvam sankalpa matrena parameshwaraha. In the beginning there was non-existence indeed. Dream-wise, then again, by mere willing, everything existent created he, the Lord Supreme. Here he attributes the manifestation of this universe to the latent potential in God's mind, which he refers to as vasanas. In Darshanamala, Narayana Guru pairs theology with cosmology, whereas in the present verse he is blending cosmology with psychology. The psychic dynamism with which verse 2 begins, when traced back to its origin, will be revealed to have its archetypal mode in the very foundation of the natural order, in what we call cosmic evolution. Narayana Guru sees the operation of a universal intelligence instead of accidental events leading to random mutations. In the third and fourth lines, he instructs the aspirant to see all the items enumerated in the first and second lines as aspects of a cosmic principle, which is both effulgent as light and a provider of substance for everything to manifest. The Karu spoken of in the previous verse refers to that which is here called Bhanuman. Bhanuman, sun, is a word that can mean both light and knowledge. In St. John's Gospel, the Word is equated with God and is described as both the material and the efficient cause of everything that is manifested here. The Guru is using the same concept of the primordial cause, which has within it the intelligent scheme of the universe, and the substantiality that can be infinitely expanded into the myriad forms of the universe. The only difference is that he has dropped the theological allusion to God. Instead, he uses an absolute principle which implies within it a cosmology and a psychology that have the same pattern or design for their respective unfoldments. The Guru expects the student to reflect as diligently as possible in order to understand all the minute details of the instruction given in each verse. We have already seen that psychic dynamism includes the quaternion of mind, memory, intellect, and ego factor. Manas, Chittam, Buddhi, Ahankaram. If these are to be seen as the glorious embodiments of the sun that shines in the sky beyond, we should first of all fix the meaning of the words sun, sky, and beyond. According to the order of the words in the original Malayalam, para comes first. We have translated para as beyond. Although the word, when taken alone, can mean other or beyond, it is also used in the sense of param, which means the highest, most excellent, greatest, and the absolute. Really, the word translated as sky also means the open. The sky in which we see the physical sun is a closed system, whereas the sky or space to which the Guru calls our attention is infinite, the open, spaceless space, in which there is no difference between the absolute and the space that is spatialized. It is in this material cause that we have to place the finalized expression of our mind, memory, intellect, and ego. The potential cannot be discerned in the way the actual can. By merely looking at a gene, one cannot say if it is going to be a black bee, a barley kernel, or a burly hippopotamus. Mind, which is the primary cause of all psychological phenomena, is similarly indiscernible. Regarding memory, a crystal does not forget its geometrical form. You can dissolve and reculture it 1,000,000 times, and it will always adhere to its previous shape. In the cosmic order of manifestation, the repetitive process reveals a built-in memory of everything which the entire sequence of physiochemical transformation has previously undergone. The human mind belongs as much to nature as the design on the wing of a butterfly belongs to the gene structure of the caterpillar from which it emanates over and over again. Thus, the memory that functions within us is only a continuation of the cosmic principle of the economy of acquired know-how. The intellect faces the problem of making categoric decisions. The laws of nature are imperative. They are precise to the most minute detail. The areas of indecision and heterogeneous functioning we see in human intelligence shows the inadequacy of our methodology, which is unable to explain the more evolved in terms of the less evolved. The intelligence operating at lower levels of biochemical, physiochemical, and psychophysical levels is of a predetermined nature. At a higher level, the factor of free will arises. The free expression of the human mind should be seen as both the cream and the scum of the final unfoldment of nature. The nature we are referring to here is not infra-nature, but that which includes meta-nature and supra-nature as aspects of the nature of the cosmos. So not infra-nature, but that which includes meta-nature and supra-nature. We have already explained how the interest of an individual decides the selective structuring of the data coming from the senses. There is an instrumentality which decides the division of a cell and then governs its development from a fetus to a mature human being. Without this instrumentality, nothing can manifest. The same continues in a person as the ego. We have to see Karanam, the psychic dynamism, as a gracious modulation of the primordial light, which has transformed into this universe. So it is the primordial light which has transformed into this universe. We are using the term transformation rather than evolution because we are aware of the conceptual limitations that is now imprinted on that word evolution after the advent of a theory of evolution which does not attribute to the cosmic principle of transformation an intelligence that is ontologically universal and teleologically purpose-oriented. So it is not mechanistic or a random event arising out of clash of factors. The free translation is, by a relentless search, one should realize that the inner faculties, the senses, the body, and all the worlds of our interest are but transformations of the glorious substance of the sun, shining in the void of the Absolute.